Here we are at the Firefox homepage. I'm sure you've already have a browser, but if you haven't checked out Firefox, it's well worth checking out. One of the nice things about it is that it's cross-platform, so you're going to get the same results no matter what type of computer you're on, what type of operating system. But because it's open source, a lot of people have done add-ons that help it do a lot more than just your average browser. Now we're going to take a look at 3 add-ons that I think every web developer needs to have, especially if you're working with JavaScript and AJAX. The first tool I want to cover for Firefox you can find under the Tools menu, and it's the DOM Inspector. This comes with Firefox automatically, and with it you can take a look at the DOM of the web page that you're currently viewing. If you're not completely comfortable with the DOM yet, I'll be going into more detail about it later, but suffice it to say that right now it lets you view information about the page that you're currently on. And not only can you see the DOM, but you can also say that you want to see various other things about it. Box model, CSS, JavaScript, for instance. We'll be spending a lot of time looking at the DOM Inspector and the JavaScript object model here. Other useful tools, if we go back to this page, other useful tools can be found here under the Add-ons item, under the Tools menu. And you can see here, there's DOM Inspector, but if you go down to the bottom right, you can click on Get Extensions. And if you click on that, it takes you to the Firefox Add-ons page. From there, you want to click on Web Development. That's a category for extensions. From there, you want to click on Popularity, because there's a couple of very popular add-ons that you're going to want to have if you don't already. Now scroll down a little, and there's 2 that you want. One is called Firebug, and one is called Web Developer. And they're both incredibly handy for debugging problems with JavaScript, CSS, HTML, everything. So just click on it, install now. Now I go back and download the Web Developer toolbar, install now, and install it. And now these have both downloaded. Yes, it was that quick. Now all I have to do is restart Firefox, and they'll both be available to me the next time I launch Firefox. So downloading them was quick, but we're not actually going to see them until we restart Firefox. So let's do that. Click that. It says I'm going to close tabs, and that's fine. And hey, there's Firefox back again, but now with a few more options. You'll see that there's a bar across here. This is the Web Developer toolbar. You can turn it off by going to View, Toolbars, Web Developer Toolbar. My personal preference, I do Customize. And then if you scroll down, you'll see a Web Developer icon. I add this to my top bar right there. And then I say Done. And then I click that, and now the Web Developer toolbar is hidden. You don't have to look at it unless you want to. It's not going to be around all the time, getting in your face. But when you want it, you just click right there, and you'll see the Web Developer toolbar again. If you spend some time looking at the Web Developer toolbar, you'll see that it actually does an amazing number of things. Here's a couple of the ones that are particularly important when you're working with AJAX. Now, I'm sure you've looked at View Source before. Everybody's looked at View Source. It's a great way to learn HTML in the first place. And here's View Source. But more importantly, here's View Generated Source. Much of what you're doing with AJAX is adding elements to the web page. Adding elements, replacing, moving things around. View Generated Source lets you look at the web page as it is currently on the screen. And because of that, you can actually look at the code that you're seeing, and it helps you track down some of the problems with your AJAX code. That's important. Another example of a useful tool in the Web Developer toolbar is under the Outline menu. You can, for instance, outline block level elements if you're having a CSS problem. This puts lines around every block on the page, and if something is not quite where you expect it to be, this outline will show you where the browser actually thinks it is. And let's say, for instance, you have a div that isn't inside another div and you think it should be, you'll be able to see at a glance that it's somewhere else. When you want to turn it off, you have to go back into the outline menu and uncheck it, and then it goes away again. That's true for pretty much everything in the web developer toolbar. But spend some time looking through all the options in the toolbar. There's actually an immense number of options there, many of which are very useful. And the third tool I want to talk about is called Firebug. And if you look down here, way down on the bottom right, there's a new little icon. It's a circle with a line through it. If you right-click on it, or control-click for you Mac users who still have a one-button mouse, you'll see that there's several options here. Right now, Firebug is disabled. So let's click that to turn Firebug on, and you'll see it's now green. If you click it again, you'll get the Firebug menu. The page is now broken up into the main web page up here and the Firebug window down at the bottom. The Firebug menu lets you view a number of different things. Here's a console, here's the HTML, here's the CSS on the page, here's scripts, here's the document object model. Here we're back in the HTML again, but now we can, over on the right side, we're looking at style, or we can look at the layout, or we can look at the DOM. If we're looking in the scripts here, over on the right-hand side, there's a couple of really interesting options. One is watch. We can tell JavaScript itself to keep an eye on certain values, so that if we're wondering how things are getting set differently than we expect them to, Firebug will let us know when that happened and how it happened. If you've worked on other programming languages besides JavaScript, you may have gotten used to using a debugger, and you want to be able to set what's called a breakpoint. Breakpoint means that your code will run up into a certain spot, and then it will stop. And it will let you check on various values and just basically look at the code while it's running. So a breakpoint lets you get into the code and actually take a look at what's going on. And then you can start it up again by clicking one of these buttons up here. All in all, if you're working with JavaScript, Firebug is immensely useful. And then when you don't want to look at it anymore, you can just click the little close and it's gone again. So we turn off Firebug, or at least tell it to go into its corner, and we can close the web developer toolbar, and everything looks pretty much the way it would normally, but all of a sudden we have an immense amount of power available to us when we need it. Next, we're going to talk about web servers, both for Mac and for Windows, how to get them and how to make them run and how to use them.